Hello and welcome to the NonProfit World TV show. This week we have as our guest Patty Dobbs-Gross and our special guest Snowy the dog. Patty is the founder and executive director of the North Star Foundation, which helps partner assistance dogs with children who have either physical or emotional needs. Welcome to our show, Patty.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Thanks. And it sounds as though you have been doing this for over 16 years. Tell me, I read a little bit on the website and I got to meet your son, Danny, and it sounds like Danny was the inspiration for your starting North Star Foundation.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about how that came to be?
Sure. Well, my son Dan was diagnosed with autism a quarter century ago. It's a very long time ago. And even though the world was certainly not as advanced as we are now concerning our knowledge about autism, an organization called Canine Companions for Independence was making what they called social dog placements. Okay. Basically, they took their wheelchair dog dropouts way back then, dogs who had really great temperaments, but maybe had one reason or another couldn't withstand the rigors of physical work such as a wheelchair dog or seeing eye dog. And so these dogs were partnered with children with developmental disabilities, or 3- and 4-way partnerships with one or both parents. So we received a dog named Madison to work with our son, Dan. But at the time, they couldn't really give us any tips on how we would actually use Madison. It was pretty obvious that if we took Madison out and about with our son Dan, that other people would come over more, kind of a golden bridge to socialization. That was the first thing we really saw. And we also saw how Madison had a way of calming Dan down. But we really didn't know way back then exactly how it was happening, biologically speaking.
And so how did you find that out? How did you seek training, or what did you do in that situation?
Well, we started North Star, first of all, 16 years ago. And that happened because I was breeding for soundness and temperament, golden retrievers. And I had a real interest, and this is 20 years ago, in creating a temperament that was conducive to working with children. And the word got around through word of mouth. So people started coming to me, coming to my door with their kids with autism and wanting one of my pups. So I kept giving them away. And my husband said, well, I don't mind if you give them away, but why don't you incorporate yourself? So that's what we did. And that's how I began North Star Foundation 16 years ago.
So was Madison, did he happen to be a golden retriever?
Yes. He was a very well-bred golden retriever. So when I started North Star, I went back to CCI and asked if I could tap into their breeding program, and they said yes. So it was one of the early days of artificial insemination for dogs, but that's when we started our breeding program. And now this summer I'm about to, or actually in 2 months, I'm about to have the 7th generation of a golden line that I've been developing for soundness as well as temperament. They bred for temperament, they bred fox in Siberia. This was about 5 years ago, and they were successful in 10 generations of getting fox to be so tame that they acted like puppies. What was interesting, and you can read about this in National Geographic, and they don't know why, but these tame fox cubs look like Disney fox cubs with little pert noses and big smiles, big round eyes. So maybe that's where Disney got the idea.
You know,
I don't know, and I think it's nice there's a little mystery in the universe.
That's true.
But what I've been discovering also is if I breed for temperament and soundness, the looks just seem to come with the package.
Okay. So Snowy here is 6 months old. How long does the training process and socialization of the dog take before the dog is introduced to a child?
Okay. Well, Snowy's a little bit of a different pup, a different job description from us, a departure. Snowy's actually partnered with a first responder in Hartford, and that's because he's in our breeding program. He's really the first stud that we've kept for our breeding program. But he's partnered with a gentleman named Hunter, who's a firefighter in Manchester. And so what Hunter's doing is pioneering the work of assistance dogs for PTSD, for first responders. They deal with a lot of stress. Very hard for them them to turn it off at the end of the night or after a particularly bad call. So Hunter makes Snowy available. And he's also getting trained through North Star's direction and support to form a team so that he can go with Snowy to children in crisis in our state. You can't just throw your assistance dog in the car and drive down to a town where a tragedy has happened. You have to be on a list and prepare yourself. And so we're getting prepared for that. But in our typical placements, i.e. Snowy's brothers and sisters, the timetable for placement with the children I serve is variable one to the other. Think like custom designed.
Okay.
So when I'm creating the specific timetable, I want to focus on the child and the pup. The adults might have had a lot of conversations, and we might think we know what's going to happen. But I want to stay open to what really happens. Because I think that's one of the hardest things that families of children with autism have to deal with, is that the world tends to be very structured, but their children are quite spontaneous. So I wanted this to be a place where families of children with autism could come and have their child's needs center to the process.
And so the child will oftentimes come and meet the dog a few times and get acquainted, and sort of you use that in your assessment?
Yes, especially if they live around us. Now, I do make placements all over the world, so sometimes the families can't come and meet us in person, but we can still create the placement.
Talk to us about how you make placements all over the world. How did that come to be from this small foundation that started in Storrs, Connecticut, thanks to your own and your son's personal experience, and now it's expanded? How has that happened?
Word of mouth. Because I never do any outreach, but I never say no to any invitation.
Okay.
So just by, it was been quite a natural process over the last, actually I've been doing this work 20 years, but incorporated for 16. It's a natural process that more and more people hear about me through a friend of a friend who read an article. And so we started to get inquiries from other countries, and I said, well, as long as, I'd never say no out of hand, so I would just keep moving forward. So now we have a nice placement in New Zealand, in Israel, in England, and in Canada.
Wow. And so do you actually coordinate the shipping of the dogs to all these places?
That's the hardest part for me.
Yes, I bet.
Because it's a paper trail and I don't like paperwork. But I do have volunteers that help me. And in fact, this is an important point to bring up, is I'm really the only employee that has a full-time salary, and half the time I'm not able to draw it.
Sure.
But we enjoy really high-quality volunteer help, and I don't think we'd be where we are without the considerable discounts we get, the occasional donations that really help out, and certainly the volunteer help, really from all around the world.
So if a viewer is watching our show and wants to get involved, either to donate or to volunteer, if they heard what you were just describing and saying, I love paperwork, I'd love to help, place a dog in New Zealand, let's say, how can they help out? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, I do have a website that I'd like people to review first, because it is a rather complicated, unique philosophy of placement. And you can go on my website, North Star Dogs with an S.
NorthStarDogs with an S.
.com, yeah.
.com,
to read about our work, and then just send me an email. It's my name, pattydobbsgross@gmail.com. And I'm on the internet. I'm answering emails about 4 hours every day, because I feel it's really important to be a first line in this emerging field. And the reason is, this is a field that leaves children very vulnerable. Because right now there's not enough known, widely known, about what an autism assistance dog is. So either inadvertently or through being greedy, you can create great danger. If you just grab up any old dog, even if they don't have the right temperament, you might be able to train it to one strong handler, especially if you use force. But when that dog goes to their child and that strong, forceful handling fades away, that dog's going to revert in behavior and understand that the child doesn't have the capability of being physically forceful. So It would have been my philosophy anyway to be gentle in terms of raising the pups, but for North Star's work, it's the most practical thing to do because we need our dogs, both breeding-wise, native temperament, as well as in practice. We need them to work for us because they want to. It's rewarding for them, not because they have to.
So I know you and I spoke a little bit before the show, and you were telling me that you have some very ambitious plans, even strategic planning through 2025. I am listening to all the things you're talking about and how it's important to make sure that the training is done in such a way that the dog, when the dog is sort of handed to the child that has autism or some other developmental need, is properly trained. Have you thought about certification or a process whereby, you know, if a dog is a North Star certified dog, then, you know, that carries a certain amount of like branding that this dog has gone through this rigorous training?
Well, I'm happy to say we're already there.
Okay.
We're really setting the standard. I was actually, you'll let me brag.
Oh, yes,
because I hardly
please
ever
do.
do.
Yes.
But I wasn't, it's pronounced amici, to a
Okay.
case that went to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
So basically what that is if in case the Supreme Court justices had any specific question, I was one of a group of people ready to answer. And the reason is I've put myself in the position to be on the cutting edge of this field, which right now involves public access, keeping our federally protected public access rights,
Right.
and getting more and more dogs into schools. That's how we can help many more children.
Sure.
Yeah.
And have you seen any sort of tug and pull in terms of helping children in schools? Oftentimes school systems, you know, may not know how to accommodate a child with a dog. Do you get involved in like 504 hearings and things like that?
Yes,
if
I do.
Families need help.
Yeah, but my favorite way to get involved in the area you're
Yes.
talking about, my mom always taught me you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. So I counsel my families, if they're going to get a North Star pup, to be careful and slow in terms of incorporating the pup into school. We'll bring the pup in for a visit first. I mind my P's and Q's. I make sure that the pups are well-bred, well-tempered, clean, have all their shots, well-trained, like Snowy is. And these things are really important because we don't want to wear out our welcome.
Sure.
So we have a bit of a reputation. We have a very good insurance policy that we've never taken a claim on in 16 years.
That's amazing. That's
that
wonderful.
ends up being very important. I don't think we could afford insurance if we had to take a claim. And
Sure.
I might not be able to afford it emotionally. In this field, people hear a lot about the feel-good stories, but any dog who has the power to help a child has the power to harm a child too. And the differences that autism presents can sometimes stress or push people's limits. And the same thing can go with dogs. Now, interestingly, there's sort of two approaches dogs tend to take to kids with autism. The ones that I breed, which are very sensitive, have superior social skills, tend to pay them extra mind.
Okay.
But I've seen dogs and actually read very sad stories about how certain dogs will target the child with autism to be extra mean to. So it's not a one-size-fits-all with dogs.
Sure.
We have to be careful not to be romantic about this field because this is a field I learned early on, zero tolerance for failure. It's just too expensive for us when anything goes wrong. So every single placement we make, we all have to agree as a team, failure's not an option.
So let me ask you, it seems like Madison, the dog that came into Danny and your lives,
Correct.
Was a dog that was originally targeted for either Fidelco or a wheelchair
It was supposed to be a
dog.
wheelchair. Madison was
dog,
going to be
right.
a wheelchair dog.
So are there dogs that you have trained that haven't made your strenuous cut, and what happens to those
Oh,
dogs?
that's a good point. Yeah, because every once in a while, people will. It's very rare for us to have a pup that temperamentally is not what we want. And that's because of our philosophy of placement, that I really don't partner the pups with the child unless I think it's a good temperamental fit. I'm wrong maybe 1 out of 20 times.
Sure.
And so if I'm wrong, I pull the plug right away, and I keep my communication up, especially during those early months, so I can know if that pup is unfolding the way that I saw them unfold in my own home and the way the puppy raisers report in their home.
And so do you do visits after the dog has been placed periodically to check and make sure everything?
And if the pup is too far away for me to make a convenient visit, what we do is we hire local trainers. There are subcontractors, kind of the boots on the ground.
Yes.
And then we're all part of a team, and we connect via the internet. Literally, we'll be on the same cyber page there for day to day, because you have to stay on top of things in this field.
You were very nice in sending me a trailer of a film about Buddy and Buddy's work with an autistic child.
Right.
And to see the whole film, can you repeat the website name again?
www.northstardogswithans.com.
And I wanted to use that segue to talk about how really North Star is a family affair.
Yes.
So Danny, your son, who really was the inspiration for the North Star Foundation, I understand has done the video and done other videos for you, and has also chosen a profession, has gone to USC and recently graduated studying cinematic arts. So I think that's a wonderful story in and of itself.
Yes.
But I know that you were telling me as well that your husband and, was it your daughter as well, that are involved? How are they involved?
Let's see. My husband does the grunt work. He does a lot of that, and he's an amazing man to really be supportive like that with me, and he always has been supportive. He also is getting us ISO certified.
Okay.
Now, my husband's a quality control manager for aerospace company, so he's very privy to how to get companies ISO certified. So our future plans involve getting North Star ISO certified, continuing to develop our policies and procedures, continuing to kind of pull out the therapeutic work that our dogs do, and to see if we can offer franchises when we hit year 25.
Okay.
Because I know my own limit is I can only do 15 placements a year.
Sure.
There's so many more children out there that need this help. So I thought if we could offer franchises where people can get North Star breeding dogs, all our policies, procedures, insurance policy, etc., I think we'll be ready for that in
Wonderful.
year
That sounds
25.
terrific. So we want to make sure that all of our viewers see the video and learn more about North Star Foundation, as well as checking out opportunities to volunteer and certainly to donate as well, because as we just heard, there are many more children and dogs that can benefit from this kind of partnership. And,
Correct. The more funding we get, the more we can help children. Yeah.
Wonderful. So do please visit the video. Buddy, I certainly did enjoy watching the video myself, and I love that Snowy has come to visit us, and I should say that it's very, very windy outside. I know our viewers will not be able to hear that, but Snowy remains very calm for a 6-month-old dog. That's pretty amazing, and that's a testament to your training and socialization as well.
Yes, and the breeding.
And the breeding.
Yeah.
So wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You know, if you just don't cry and don't whine, and if you just sit down, you're the best baby ever. And that's kind of how David was.
She was this cooing, wonderful, happy baby. And then around her first birthday, she just whoop, and it all went away.
The date that we realized there was something going on was when he was in kindergarten, and he just froze up one day in school.
It was like a new kid just entered her classroom.
Are we gonna get to play ball? Is he gonna understand music? Will he talk? I liken it to being helicoptered into the wilderness. They take off and they go, all right, you're on your own.
We hit a level where our problems began to stem not from Dan in our own home, but from outside our front door.
I think a lot of times people are confused when they see him behaving in certain ways and sometimes very critical.
What the heck is wrong with you?
There's no excuse for ignorance in my mind. I don't have time for that anymore. I mean, who really has time for people's bullshit, really?
Well, I grew up with a pet dog, like most of us, but I really didn't come to appreciate dogs until my son Danny was diagnosed with autism.
We just imagined him saying, hey, you know, this is my dog, and it kind of gave him something to talk about.
What's his name, Buddy?
Yeah,
Buddy.
It's amazing. Like, he knows what his job is, and he seems to like that job.
He knows when we're getting anxious, and at that time he just comes over and starts giving us support and stuff, and I really like that. I think he's one of the best things that's ever happened to our family.
He knows that he's got a special place in this family. He's one of us. We wouldn't be the Janus family without him.
I think what has to happen is our society has to understand that this world is for all of us. And our dogs are really there to help your average person mitigate their fear of differences.